Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in another episode of People Talks. And I'm here with Maria Bondarenko, who's joining us from what are you chiming in from?
Joining from New York City.
New York City, the East Coast. Great. Okay, so thank you for joining us, Maria. It's a pleasure to have you
Of course.
here. And I look forward to this conversation, which I'm sure you're going to be find interesting, everyone out there. So, Maria, let's start with you, and then we're going to go from there. Thank you,
Of course.
everyone. And Maria, it's all yours.
Of course. Well, first of all, Carlos, I wanted to thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited for this conversation and to talk more about uh, empathy and curiosity in marketing and especially engaging member audiences. So, a little bit about me. My name is Maria, and I work in digital health organizations and health tech companies, specifically on the side of engaging existing member audiences. My path to marketing, though, was not linear. From early age, I was really interested in human behavior, why we feel the way we feel, why we act the way we do, right? Why those emotions make us act in a certain way. And so that interest led me to pursue psychology first. And so I studied
Mhm.
psychology, and I started counseling and therapy. And I worked as a therapist for a few years in different countries, working with very different populations. When I moved to the United States, though, I had to start navigating the healthcare system that we have here. And for anybody out there who does live in the United States, will know that is not an easy task. And early on, I realized that I was really struggling with that. It wasn't easy, and I realized that it wasn't just because I was a foreigner and it was new to me, even though
Mhm.
that was definitely a part of it. But it's just a complex system, right? It's not easy. A lot of people struggle with finding care, navigating the services or tech solutions that we're offering, and that struggle inspired me to pursue a new career path, helping people connect to those services, to that care through marketing, right? Because marketing is all about letting people know what's available, connecting with your audiences, helping them navigate all these difficult products or services the best way so they can have better lives. And I realized that my background in psychology actually was really helpful in that work because it's all about connecting, it's about being empathetic, being curious, learning about people, not making assumptions, testing, right, different hypotheses. And so, like, a lot of that, what we do in therapy and in psychology, actually apply to member marketing. And so I'm very excited to talk more about it and how this experience has helped me to do this work in marketing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing your background with us. So I'm starting to gather a few questions here. So first of all, for those of us who are in the marketing space, and I'll be very candid here. I don't have a clear idea what member marketing is. So would you mind first starting there? Would you mind clarifying what member marketing is for our audience and for myself as well?
Sure, of course.
Thank
So
you.
specifically with healthcare, right? So we have audiences, of people out there who might be looking for some service, right? So as a company, we advertise in the services we provide, try to connect with them and show the value. Once they decided, yes, this is something that I need, this is something that can help me, they start using that service or that product, right? If it's, let's say it's a tech platform. And so this is when member marketing comes in, because once those audiences are acquired, you can just abandon them, right? And just let them navigate all this complexity by themselves. So member marketing is really a lot about guiding them through that journey, understanding the experience, engaging them, and helping them through content, campaigns, events, and other things to make the most use out of
Mhm.
that service or of that platform. So this is where really the member marketing comes in.
Great. Well, thanks for the insights. Maria. Okay, so as you know, we're here to talk about, of course, marketing and all things marketing. However, the focus is the people, the human element behind the marketing strategies or tech or tools, right? In this case, Maria, I believe that we chose the psychology of member marketing. In other words, we're going to talk about engaging minds and building loyalty. So, what can you tell us about the psychology of member marketing? Why is it important to think in terms of psychology in member marketing?
Of course. So, marketing, member marketing or just marketing in general is all about connection. It
Mhm.
can be a little easy sometimes to forget that, but on the other side, it's always another human being, right? We don't create this content for ourselves. We don't launch those campaigns for ourselves. It's all about engagement, right, with other people, right? Other humans. They have their emotions, their needs, their struggles, right? Their wins, everything, right? And so this is where psychology is important, right? Right, and we need to connect with those people, right, on the other side. And we can't do that if we're not curious about them, if we're
Mhm.
not exercising empathy, right?
Right.
Because it's very easy to make assumptions, right, about
Mhm.
what people want. A lot of those assumptions come from us. um, but we need to go out there and we need to talk to people, right? And talking to people is, in a way, an art. You have to
Mhm.
know what exactly you're looking for, what kind of information, what in the experience you're trying to understand. And what helps with that is being curious, not making assumptions, being empathetic, offering that help, right? Trying to really be of service to people. Another part of it is we all have our needs, right? So we can look at hierarchy of needs. And you need to understand as a marketer where the audience that you're working with, where they're at, right? Because let's say you're working for a nonprofit who helps populations that's really struggling with something. So the
Mhm.
basic needs might not be satisfied, right? So like the need for safety, for instance. And if that's not satisfied, we can't really talk about, emotional needs. This is not a priority right now for your audience, right? In this specific scenario. And so understanding what, experience people are going through, what in each experience they need is very important. Otherwise, we can't connect with them. We can't create content that's helpful for them. We can't create products that are helpful for them. And so this is where psychology plays a really big role.
Gotcha. So what I'm hearing is that we should probably find ways to. Hold on one second. Let me just turn this thing off. Sorry, folks. It's the phone. I forgot to turn it off. But
Awesome.
I'm human, and this is about being human, right? So, sorry, Maria. So what I was saying is that we're talking about engagement. We're talking about empathy. But personally, I find it a little bit challenging in this day and age of so much um, our relationship with technology and digital tools that sometimes make it a little bit hard to become personal, to become close to our audience in a truly significant way, right? In a way that we're able to exercise that empathy. So, as a marketer, how would you say that what is the workaround for all these let's call it technology barriers that are out there so that prevent us from connecting with people at a deeper level, at the human level? So how do we strike a balance, Maria?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, the tech we have now, the tools we have now in marketing are amazing, right? They can help us do so many things from, making messages more personal to generating, content very quickly or, generating images very quickly and amazing, something that even like, let's say 5 years ago, we were not able to do. And so it's easy kind of to get like kind of wrapped up in that and, play with that a lot and forget that, it's really
Mhm.
people we're doing this for. And I like to, I think what's helpful is to remember that all this tech we have is there to help us to connect, right?
Mhm.
It's not the main point. And the way I think that's helped me to kind of not to get too, hung up on the tech things is, people appreciate like genuine connection, right? They appreciate transparency, consistency, right? So you don't have to complicate it with tech to do that. You need to go out and talk to your members, right? That can be a great way to remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. You can do
Mhm.
that in very different ways. You can even like a simple survey where you just let people write some feedback, right? Whatever it is they
Mhm.
have going on, express any kind of concerns or what they really like about your product. Just having that and can help you like kind of hear the audience's voice and understand the experience, which is not a big thing. Honestly, this is on the execution side. It doesn't have to be complicated, but they can help you kind of reconnect with that audience, right? To really understand why you're doing it. You can be really creative about it. Like in marketing, we're in this unique position often, especially member marketing, that we kind of sit between our audience and the rest of the company or organization. And we collaborate with so many teams, and some of those teams can have great insights into the audience and the experience, right? Like you can go to the support team and ask them, what kind of interactions have you been having? Like, are you hearing is there any themes you are noticing, right? In those, um, when people reach out, right? You can go to a product team and ask, can we look at how people navigate the product,
Mhm.
how they can, where the frustrations are, right? So maybe they drop off somewhere or do something that we didn't expect them to do, right? They use the service, right, in the way that we didn't expect. So you can always find these creative ways to learn more about the people you're creating your content for. And it's just,
Mhm.
it's just having that mindset, and remembering that it's people, they have their emotions and their needs, which also change with time, over time that can be
Right.
different.
Right.
What your audience wanted a year ago might not necessarily be true anymore. And so
Mhm.
having that mindset of going out there, connecting with them, um, and constantly showing that you're there to support them. And so
Mhm.
that I think can really help, um, to kind of balance that tech side of marketing, which is really there to help you to do all those things.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and there's, I mean, I would be, it would be, I think, naive on my end if I were to just rely completely on all things analog, right? We just can't do that anymore in this day and age. As much as I personally would like to, because I still favor like analog photography and, things that are more retro, if you will, but that's just me, right? But I realize that in the marketing space and many other spaces, we cannot just jump off the tech bandwagon, especially
Right.
the AI bandwagon. We need
Hmm.
to jump on it in one way or another, whether we like it or not, right? So, I mean, if we are to remain current. So, this being said, Maria, I would like to just touch briefly on the AI specifically theme and the topic. Uh, let me ask you something from your perspective, and in a world that is increasingly driven by AI and automation, and even more so in marketing. What do you see as the role of humans in keeping marketing strategies personal and relatable? How do we, I mean, it's probably tied into the previous questions, how to strike a balance, but specifically AI and automation, what is the role of humans in keeping these strategies, marketing strategies, personal and relatable?
Hmm. Yeah, no, this is a great point. I mean, we can't afford not to use AI and tech anymore, right? We have to learn.
Right, right.
It's this, it provides us with these new opportunities. And we if we want to stay current, as you said, we have to learn it, right? We have to embrace it and find the ways to use it in our strategies. But at the end of the day, marketing is about connection. And we humans, we understand other humans, right? We're social beings. This is how we thrive, right? Through connection. And this is a big part of marketing, and it's a big part of member marketing. And AI is really a great way to do that and to support that, right? When we tell our stories, AI can help us bring a lot of color to them, right? Whether it's images or copywriting. And but it's us, right, who are driving those strategies, because we understand, or we try to understand, the whole kind of the experience of our audiences holistically, right? It's the AI and in any like tech, right, we use, it's only as good as we are at using it. So
Right.
if I want to generate an image with the help of AI, I have to have like some kind of a product, like the end result in mind, and give it specific instructions. Otherwise, it will create something that's not necessarily relevant, or not something that will resonate with the audience. They also like did a few of those experiments when ChatGPT really exploded, of whether it's better than copywriters. So they were like facing off with ChatGPT, and the results are, ChatGPT is great at taking a lot of information, analyzing it, giving you summaries. It could be great at editing, like, finding some mistakes, or kind of making maybe suggestions somewhere. But when it comes to like actually writing, it's not as good yet, at least at this point in time, right? You can read a piece of content, and you can probably tell pretty confidently whether it was written by a human or AI. And so we still need that human perspective. We are the ones who know our audiences and what they need. We are the ones who make the plans on how to connect with them. We learn about them. We connect with them. And so again, AI is a great tool, but we're kind of in the driver's seat still at this
Yes.
point.
Yes, indeed. I like that. When I used to, not long ago, I still used to be a little bit weary about this whole AI thing in general. Like, but when I started to realize that I could be in the driver's seat, at least in my business, in my space, it's like, oh well, this is something that I might want to look into, right? Okay, Maria, let's go back to the psychological insights part, because I think that's
Mhm.
something that's very as a psychology amateur and aficionado myself, because as a reader, I think it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. So psychological insights, how can we use, let's say, for example, we're talking about engagement, we're talking about technology, using AI in general, right? So how can we use technology or AI to garner to gather psychological insights from our audiences that are going to enable us to build, I don't know, loyalty and relationships and strengthen the human connection? How can we do that,
Mhm.
or can we do that? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think where it all starts is usually with whatever goal you have, right? So, what is that? Because we can collect a lot of data, right? Including about like the emotional state of our audience at like different parts of the journey. But you have to be clear on why you're collecting the insights that you're collecting, and have a very clear way how you're going to do that, and how you're going to do that empathetically. How can you connect with the audience at this specific time, let's say, and get an insight into the experience. And I think this is where automation and including AI can be a great tool, right? It can help us to make the process more streamlined. It can offer us, for instance, if we collect a lot of information, it would take a person a long time to go through all of that to get the insights. And then we can also bring our biases into it, right? Our personal preferences. And so I think AI could sometimes offer that a little bit of maybe like objective or like not
Mm-hmm.
involved kind of perspective. And it
Mm-hmm.
can analyze a lot of that information really quickly. So then we can take those insights and incorporate them in our strategies.
Mm-hmm. Great. So, well, thank you for that, Maria. That was very insightful. Okay, so we're still talking about insights, right? So, but the way I see it is insights are all closely tied to data, right?
Mhm.
In a way. So, in that sense, my question to you is, with customer data becoming more accessible through technology, how do we avoid the trap? 'Cause I think it's a trap of just seeing people as numbers and metrics. How do we avoid that? How do we as marketing companies avoid that trap? Oh, I got this data, I got these insights, and then I'm just going to use this, and these are just numbers and metrics, and that's it.
Mhm.
How do we avoid that?
Yeah. So, I mean, first, I think it's important to point out. I think it's okay to use those metrics, right? Like they do give us can provide some good information about
Mm-hmm.
our audience, right? So they're not bad. It's very reasonable to assume that, let's say you have a segment of people in their 30s. It's reasonable to assume they're going through very similar life experiences, right? So if we, let's say, separated our audiences by age group, right, this is not a bad idea, right? Or with a specific location, right? You can think of the ways that people interact with the environment, right? And it can be really helpful. But I
Mm-hmm.
think here the trap is, right, just to using that superficial data. And because we put people in boxes based on that data. And with that, I think the danger is in making assumptions. So some of those assumptions could be very fair and correct,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of them could not really be accurate. And so I think we need to go kind of deeper and create those different segments based on other data as well. So let's say we're talking to customers and we realizing, a lot of them have frustration when they're, I don't know, in onboarding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can segment that group, right? And I do apologize for my dog. I'm really sorry. He's
Oh no,
barking
no,
really
no, no.
loudly.
No need to apologize.
But
I think your dog wants to participate.
I know he hates being left out, but yeah. So here he is,
Well,
yeah, with his big
no,
personality.
yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely. So
but
let me here's a little
yeah, no, just
parenthesis. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead, please, Maria.
I just wanted to kind of finish up the point. We can segment people not just based on those superficial data that we get, like
Mm-hmm.
age, location. We can go
Right.
deeper and see what the experience is like at different parts of the journey of interacting with us, and what emotions they experience during those different touch points, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of segment them also by that.
Mm-hmm.
To like maybe explore their behavior, right? They're navigating a tech product, where they go, for what, why, right? So that can be a helpful, like, to look at that, at those behavioral patterns,
Right.
and kind of so go a little deeper with that. But data can provide us with a lot of information, and it wouldn't be correct to just totally kind of not count it, but not making assumptions is important, and talking to your audience and learning more about them can provide you with those insights into their emotional state,
Mm-hmm.
and can help you create content that um, will be helpful for them, and with that will help you better connect with them.
Right. Great. So, Maria, let me tell you a little secret. I was starting to learn how to speak dogese, and I think
Oh.
your dog wants to say something. Right? If I got that right, he's got a question. And this is just a fun take on how we can make something that's happening spontaneously part of a story, right? So I guess that your dog has a question, and the question is, what role does storytelling play in maintaining a human-centered approach to marketing in an automated world?
Yeah.
And the word and
Well,
the key word here is storytelling. What role does it have in an automated world?
yeah. Well, the story my dog is telling is always, how can I get more attention? But um, I think that like storytelling is so like natural to us as
Mhm.
humans, right? Because for a long time, this was how we maintain our history, even right before the written word. So like it's just so like deep in our nature to
Mhm.
tell stories. We love stories, right? That's why we read. That's why we watch TikTok, right? It all tells a story. Like the best videos you see, they always, there's some kind of a story there. So storytelling really helps us connect because it kind of helps us tap into that emotional life we have.
Mhm.
And I think the best brands that connect the most effectively with their audiences are the ones that are really good at telling those stories. And a lot of it comes from your identity as a company, as a brand, right? As a, if you're providing some kind of service, who you are, right? What is your story? What are your values? And then using that to create that narrative
Mhm.
around your work, and how you communicate that narrative to your audiences. And so storytelling is really important because it fosters that connection. It helps us to invoke certain emotions in our audiences, and for them to relate to us and what we're doing.
Great. So I totally agree with you, Maria. So unfortunately, we're coming up on time, right? I mean, all good things must come to an
It
end.
went fast.
So, especially when we're having fun. So, do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience, whether current or future audience, before we wrap up? Anything you want to share with your audience, with the world, before we go?
Yeah. And thank you for providing me the opportunity to do that. I think when, we talked a lot about empathy and curiosity, connecting with others, being
Hmm.
creative. And it's all really important. I think, though, what happens a lot in marketing, we're so so focused on bringing value to our audiences. And people usually go into marketing because they really care. They want to create something really interesting, something cool. They want for people to see it, right, to interact with it. And often we forget about ourselves as marketers.
Right.
But as they say, you can pour from an empty cup. I think to be curious and empathetic about our audiences, we also have to direct some of that empathy towards ourselves. You can see, like, from my experiences, there's high levels of burnout on marketing teams, right? It's part of it is because people really care
Hmm.
about doing a great job and really connecting with others. But we need to direct some of that curiosity towards our experience, some of that empathy towards ourselves. We need to create lives around, that are not just centered around our work, but lives
Hmm.
that nourish our creativity. I can't connect meaningfully with my audience if I'm exhausted, right?
Right.
If I'm
Right.
running on empty. And so I think the final message that I think is important to talk about is how that all that kind of all those psychological insights we should also kind of apply to ourselves and help ourselves to live better lives. And with that, we'll be able to connect better with our audience, and kind of bring a lot of value to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Maria, let me tell you that it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And folks, for those of you who are watching now or will be watching in the future through one of the recordings in one of the channels of our channels, make sure to connect with Maria on LinkedIn. You can see the handle right there, Maria dash dash Bondarenko. So that being said, I would also like to encourage everybody out there to keep an eye on future episodes and interviews right here on the People Talk Talks podcast. You'll see the address down below, peoplebound.co/podcast. That being said, Maria, thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos.
I enjoyed our conversation thoroughly, and I look forward to many more in the future. And folks, thank you, and you have a wonderful day. See you next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.